Welcome to this week's Parsha thought for the Parsha of Parshas Yisro. The Parsha of Yitro is one which we're very familiar with. It encapsulates within it the time when the Jewish people received the Torah. I'd like to share with you a story that I mentioned a while ago in Shul, but I think it's very significant to the message that I'd like to convey. The story is told of a particular individual who worked in an IT company. He'd been given a very important project to oversee. He had to program a certain software, spent many months, if not years, just developing this particular software. When it gets put into action with the client, right away it becomes apparent that because of a minor mistake in the programming, the whole thing was defunct. Couldn't be used. Cost the company a tremendous amount. I think it was something like $1 million. And at the end of the day, it was all his fault. He receives a call to go up to the CEO, and he's certain that the CEO is definitely going to tell him that he's fired. In a bid to save grace at least a little bit, he decides that he's going to preempt it. He comes upstairs to the CEO and he says to him, "Listen, I know exactly what you're going to say. I take responsibility. It was my mistake. And I realize that it caused the company tremendous grief and financial aggravation, financial loss. And therefore I understand perfectly well, should you decide that it's appropriate to terminate my contract." The CEO looks at him, he's totally aghast. Terminate your contract? He says, "Yes, I understand. I cost the company quite a significant amount of money, and therefore I understand if you decide that it's time for me to go." The CEO turns to him and he says, "My dear friend, the company has just invested $1 million in your education. Do you think we're going to let some other company benefit from that?" It's a very significant story, a very important idea. To err is human. We do make mistakes. We do have shortcomings. And the question isn't whether we make mistakes, but rather what we can learn from those mistakes. And what I want to bring out is the importance of at least the ability to make mistakes. Our rabbis tell us that when it came to the giving of the Torah, God went amongst all the nations and offered it to them, and each one in their own way rejected this particular offer, except when it came to the Jewish people. And what was unique about the Jewish people, it wasn't just that they were willing to accept all the 613 commandments of the Torah, but more importantly, that when they were offered it, they didn't even ask what it entailed. They were so magnanimous, they simply said, "Yes, by all means, we will take it. Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do everything that you're going to ask of us." What is it that you're going to ask of us? We'll find out later. But God, whatever you want, we're doing. Na'aseh v'nishma. It's viewed as a tremendous accolade to the Jewish people that they were willing to give up of themselves without even knowing what that entailed, what it involved. The rabbis tell us that when the Jewish people said this miraculous statement of Na'aseh v'nishma, the angels on high broke up into a furor. Mi gila livnei adam razeh. Who revealed to mere mortals, to human beings, the secret? For it appears that the declaration of Na'aseh v'nishma is not simply a declaration of commitment and of binding connection between the Jew and God, but rather it's some type of a secret spiritual code, a spiritual abracadabra, if you will, that holds within it tremendous power. And the angels were therefore very perplexed. Who told them the secret? Our rabbis in fact tell us that in expressing this, Na'aseh v'nishma, not only did we have this magical, mystical, spiritual code of Na'aseh v'nishma, but we in fact were expressing that we were on the level of angels. That the Jewish people, having gone through what we did, reached that point where, spiritually speaking, we were like angels. It's therefore very strange why the Talmud tells us that at this point in time, God does not simply express wonder, amazement, and gratitude. He raises Mount Sinai. Kafa alehen har kegigit. He places Mount Sinai on top of the Jewish people, almost as a yarmulke that envelops, a dome that envelops the entire Jewish population that's encamped underneath, and says to them, listen, if you accept these rules, if you accept the Torah, good. If not, Sham teik furatchem, I will replace the mountain, and this will be your burial site. It seems incongruous. You just told us that Na'aseh v'nishma, the Jewish people were magnanimous. And now you're coercing us, you're forcing us, you're compelling us to accept it, or else this will be your burial site. And the rabbis express that at that point in time, the reason God did that is because there was a potential of a reneging of the Jewish people, because when they saw the magnificent event of the giving of the Torah, the thunder, the lightning, the booming sound, the booming voice of God, there was a fear that the Jewish people would say, what have we got ourselves into? They would retrace themselves, they would retract and say, whoa, maybe we rushed into this a little bit with our eyes closed. And therefore God had to, kafalein har kegigit, He had to take the mountain and hold it on over them, that they should be compelled to maintain their status. They should be compelled to maintain their commitment. And yet these two seem incongruous. On the one hand, migila razeh, they're like angels. On the other hand, we have to force them. And the answer is yes. God didn't want us to be angels. God didn't want the Jewish people to simply be like angels. Because in so doing, there would have been no legitimate reason to give us the Torah. He may as well simply have given it to the angels. God wanted us to have a fight, a battle, an internal conflict, which tells us don't do it. And Kaf Alein Har Kegigit reflects that conflict which the Jew has on a daily basis to keep Torah and mitzvahs, to be true to our traditions, to our faith, to the Torah. God wanted us to have an evil inclination. The mountain reflects that evil inclination which dissuades us from fulfilling His will. It's that which makes us not angels but humans. But when humans confront that evil inclination, confront our failures, and overcome them, then we don't simply become great human beings. We become incredible angels. And that is what God wanted. He didn't want us to be without challenge. He didn't want Shabbos to always be easy. He didn't want Kashrus to be easy. He didn't want it to be easy to be a Jew. He wanted it to be marred by conflict, internal conflict with ourselves and our Yetzer Hara, with our evil inclination. Not so that we should fail, but that when we succeed, it's even greater. So the next time you're challenged, you don't want to get up in the morning to come to davening, to put on tefillin. When your taste buds become excited when you go past a McDonald's, don't feel guilty about it, but capitalize on it. Realize your Yetzer Hara